we have reached major 13. So we are in front of this relatively long section from major 13 to major 20. That is, I believe, a truly impressionistic segment. Let's hear it and let's then go on with some considerations. Now here we have this task of evoking those sensations that we feel when looking at the sunlight passing through trembling leaves. I believe this is really what we have to try to express. And in fact we have an important note here from Debussy when this pattern that is splitted between the two hands starts, that says very equal, like an iridescent mist. We have another note that is in tempo. So now the exercise is to create this emotional feeling by controlling our muscles and bone system through the key and action system that eventually leads to the percussion of strings by means of felt hammers. So let's get into bites this elephant that we have to eat. So Debussy is giving a good hint, I believe, with the first part of his note, very even, very equal. And remember, he's saying in tempo. Now, the first necessary thing to be very equal in such a pattern is to establish a very neat and precise rhythmical line. Rhythm is not really coming out from the totality of the complication of all the notes we have in a measure, but is mostly born by the main beats of these patterns, that very simply here are the first notes of each group of five notes in the measures. So let's start practicing our evenness, the equality we can play by simply playing the first note of these groups. And we might even try first with the finger by which we feel more comfortable to explore what is the limit that the action and the instrument we have is giving in terms of playing pianissimo. So let's do this simple exercise, like to set a basic target. And remember, we should recover that tempo that we used to start at the very beginning. So now that I have this first element of my aural image, I will work on it with the actual hand and finger that I need to use. And so I will use the first finger for me with my left hand. And one more consideration here, I would say, it feels for me terribly difficult to restrict the action for these quick notes to the finger action, to the point that I believe is, at least for me, for this instrument, is not the proper way. Instead, I will remember that I have an entire biological mechanism available, and in particular for the base pillars of my rhythmical flow, I will certainly take advantage of my entire arm for the action of the first notes of the group. So let's do that. And doing this, I have to monitor my kinesthetic capabilities, the sound result, and converge through little adjustment to that level of pianissimo and regularity that I want to play. Once I have gained my confidence on this simple basic exercise, I can start adding a few notes. And I believe a good idea is to add the other 3 notes in the right hand. So now playing 4 notes out of these 5, but trying to maintain their position in the group of the 5. And while doing this, I feel that my wrist and hand tends naturally to kind of lift toward the last 2 notes of the 3 that the right hand take. I feel that I shouldn't neither restrict this nor to exaggerate this, but actually feel it and in a way take advantage about what it helps to do. That means a more intimate feeling and control of those quick notes I have to play. And then, as a last step, I can add the least important note here, that is the second of the group of 5, that I will take with my 4th finger. This is my choice. You might feeling better to use perhaps your 3rd finger or whatever else you find convenient. Bar 13, the left hand and right hand change their patterns, so I will do the same process with these new notes, and nothing new to be said. Now, Debussy left other very precious indications for our way towards expressing the musical beauty of this section. And so one is regarding the long notes in the right hand, so I guess the bells sound. So we have an indication here on the first notes, expressive and sweetly emphatic, right? And I noticed that we have 2 flat accents here at bar 15. No, excuse me, that probably is bar 14. And then all the other long notes do not have any accent until we reach bar 19, I believe, on this E and B flat. Here, once again, Debussy marked this flat accent. So to me, this discontinuity of indications means that most probably, I would say clearly, he didn't want that we apply the same accent on the other notes where he didn't write anything, right? And so, what does it mean for me as a keyboard player? Well, I feel the C sharp and the B should be played with a very good combination of finger grasping action and a bit of the weight of my arm, right? So I use a bit of the weight of my arm on those notes, trying then to release it when I play the 30 seconds note in the right hand. Instead, going ahead, I don't have any more the accents, so I can reduce the weight action for the long note and limiting to my grasping action, I think is quite convenient and effective. So once again, grasping and wait. Just grasping. And here in this section we have a couple of other technical subtle issues to work on. One is those jumps, those little transitions that for me needs a kind of focused practice in there. So at bar 18, where I have to jump from the B flat to the C and G chord here, and I believe there is nothing else than to be done than practicing several times this jump here. And then increasing the speed in grasping those two notes while we gain a confidence with the distance. And then other important elements are these crescendo and diminuendo indications. And simply, once again, the same tools to me are what I need to work on. So I remove notes and I try to express the crescendo with those basic rhythm notes. And similarly at bar 19. Feeling up. And then all the notes. And we noticed that at bar 18, 19, and 20, these 5 notes groups includes one interval, harmonic interval. And I think part of the process is to play those initial notes in the groups as a chord. Just to get kind of familiarized and confident on the keys that shall be taken when you play these melodically. What else to say for this section? Oh, right, that issue of playing legato. Clearly, we have here a nice clear example, considering that the right hand has to sing these long notes, but basically with any possibility of physical connection between keys. And this doesn't belong to the pianistic, realm of possibility. So we have to focus on the sound continuity and fluidity and elasticity of our movements. And actually also for the speed that things happen here. For example, there are notes like very clearly at bar 19, the B and G flat, that only can be grasped very quickly with actually a staccato, but thanks to the pedal and with the attention of the sound intensity, we can express that legato that Debussy wants. Okay, let's go on, and we are again with the indication on tempo at bar 21, where we have a sort of pattern very similar to what we found in the first bars of the piece. So we have the right hand with the fifth finger that has to lead with a melody with flat accents. Once again, we have a legato task to be played with just one finger, the fifth finger on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes. And the pedal and our fluidity in the movements should be the key. And here we have a little trick in the left hand that has to take part of the secondary notes in the decoration semiquavers in the top stuff. So we have kind of familiarizing in giving a bit more importance to the quavers line and just picking up kind of by mistake, in a way of saying, those semiquavers that would be problematic for the right hand to take. So something like once again, I think a useful trick for me, at least, is to play very quickly, very briefly, the semiquavers belonging to the 6 notes in the decoration figure on the top. So first step to play them quickly, and then is refinement work, trying to reduce the energy on those keys with respect to what you are doing with the quavers notes of this line. That is basically what we met at the beginning. And we notice that at bar 23 we have a kind of repetition of what we just played with some variation, and Debussy is not writing any longer the flat accent on the top notes. And this is for me very interesting and musically, I believe, very valuable, very delicate. So reducing the importance of those leading notes in the top, we naturally have that line of quavers in the left hand gains importance and tends to arise to the attention of the listener. This is, I think, a very important point, because we notice that these quavers notes gains in their importance progressively because they will lead to what will be what I would call the compass notes in the next section. What I mean to say is that, so we have removed energy from the right hand, and we have this line taking some importance, and then with the crescendo, that line increases his presence in the musical line, anticipating that assertive singing of the A and G at bar 25. Yes, we reached measure 25, so here our choreography work needs to be a bit more complicated, but I think that all the tools that we have worked on so far are what we need to prepare our performance on these measures. And so I repeat again that idea that for me is useful to identify in this complication of notes here my compass notes that to me musically are clearly, I'll play those alone to make them clear. These few notes give to me the kind of compass, the reference to maintain my balance while I fill up with the other notes that are mostly decorative. So even in the left hand I have this chord, but the top notes marked with a flat accent are clearly dominant, while the notes in the bottom should be played with a bit of shift of energy that is instead taken by the thumb on the top note of the chord. And even at bar 26 we have this arpeggio. Yes, we have to practice it a bit slowly, taking well the keys. But in performance, the attention is just for the top notes, so these other notes are kind of quickly taken along the way. Depending on your hand, you might want to try to hold them or not holding them. It really depends on how comfortable and relaxed is your hand, but you have the pedal there, so there is not a big difference. And I think when I play, probably I leave the fifth finger, and instead I can easily keep down physically the B, the C and the E before touching the A and the G. So again, outlining, we can start with the bass rhythm notes in the right hand. A bit more feeling. And by the way, I believe that bar 25 deserves a bit more of energy. In my edition, there is a suggestion of playing with all three strings, bar 25, and then bar 26 to go with una corda, so that bar 25 is a bit more assertive and bar 26 a kind of echo. And I think there is a very important detail that is the flat accent that Debussy wrote in the middle of these semiquavers groups of 6 notes, and with the pedal down there is a beautiful effect of bells sounding there. So thinking to play these little notes with the flat accent alone as I did is quite complicated, right? But actually playing them like a landing point of the quick semiquavers right before becomes quite natural after we practice it for a while. And so at the very end we have just to keep in mind that there is this to be done, and when we practice those groups of semiquavers, I think we might split them and stopping on the accent notes for a few times, and later to fill up with the rest that is like a very mere ornament. What I mean to say is that if we play like this, it will feel very ergonomic, very natural to arrive with a sort of accent on the thumb that takes those accented notes. I am exaggerating this, but through the process you can start with that and then refining the touch and the energy up to that right level that you want to be on. Regarding the semiquavers, a bit of practice with the key bedding of the keys to get familiarity with the patterns. Even perhaps in chords. Without anxiety to keep too long to make a physical legato that doesn't have any meaning, considering that we have the pedal down. So just release those long notes, I believe, when you feel that is natural and helping the fluidity doing that. And after we have practiced with these little details, I think very important to take instead again the main beats to settle in the main points of our large, long lines choreography. So and also here to be brave enough to zoom in those critical jumps and practice really a few notes before and after on that point. For example, at the end of bar 26. Or here at the beginning of bar 27. We have reached bar 27, right? And here the left hand again have compass notes. Let's practice first these important notes that are both at the leading line in the aural image, but can be also physically a point of balancing in the complexity of the choreography in this part. What we have to do is with the pedal in the first jump, and notice that the right hand bells in the top are synchronous with the ternary rhythm here at the beginning. Then in the middle of the bar is slightly more complicated in the sense that the left hand swap to a binary rhythm and instead the bells in the top of the right hand figure is still ternary. And so it's an easy thing, however, to work on, in the sense that and is usually progressively filling up. At part 28 and 29, again we have leading compass notes that are this bell in the left hand. I would play first those notes with the main notes in the right hand, even removing the grace notes that complicates a bit things when we start practicing. And for me, it's quite natural, convenient to use an action of keys pushing rather than hand dropping. So and to move towards the final performance with the grace note, first in chords. And then splitting the grace note from the other two notes with making it as easy as possible. Here we have a jump, a little problematic, so focusing there, restricting our attention and practice is, for me, necessary.